Welcome inside our CBS Sports Studios. I'm Adam Shine. He's Kyle Long. Week 3, week of the backup quarterback. And listen, it was a mixed bag. Let's be crystal clear about that.
Yeah, it was.
But let's start with the positive.
Yeah.
How about Carson Wentz?
How about
the Wentz wagon, Kyle, is alive and well. And I am not going to minimize Carson Wentz. You know, I was going to vote for him the year the Eagles ultimately won the Super Bowl. Nick Foles, he was going to be my guy for MVP.
You were. I'm sure you were.
I was. He was going to be the guy. But this, to me, feels like a Kevin O'Connell special, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain coaches you can have in the National Football League, and they are very rare. But when you get them, they find a way to touch you in a way that you've never been spoken to, coached, connected with, and that's when special things happen.
Yep.
The lucky thing for the Minnesota Vikings is they've got a number of those guys on their coaching staff. And when I look at the final score between the Bengals and the Vikings, it's not indicative of talent because we know that there's great talent on both sides of the ball. This was a coaching masterclass. This is a culture in Minnesota that has a very high floor, and obviously the ceiling is really non-existent when you play that well on defense. You take care of the football on offense. They've got Jordan Mason run the football now. I like the Vikings a lot. So for Carson Wentz, I would imagine that he slept pretty well Saturday night, knowing that he's got good guns behind him. You're Jake Browning, conversely, and you understand that this is not an offensive line that's built to dominate in the running game. You've got a quarterback who, for the most part, Joe Burrow, is the ball's out. And they have a lot of success offensively, but they do it a certain way with Joe Burrow. You can't replicate that. I know Jake Browning has had a high completion percentage and had some success last time he was in there for a stint. But unfortunately for the Bengals, we are seeing backup quarterbacks all too often. It obviously wasn't great. But for the Minnesota Vikings, Brian Flores, I mean, that defense.
He's unbelievable.
The things that he shows you, the things that he takes away pre-snap, I can only imagine some of the headaches that they had to go through today. And obviously, I'm going to take a look at the tape other than what we saw on TV. But it was, judging by the score, it was a nightmare today for the Cincinnati Bengals.
A complete and utter nightmare in every phase for the Cincinnati Bengals and Jake Browning, who has been solid as a backup, but today was awful. Again, we'll let you pour through the film, but I feel comfortable saying this was a nightmarish performance. I don't think it was a fluke for Wentz.
No.
When you have that, first of all, Carson Wentz, a big-time talent. You have that kind of talent and coaching around him. You know, I'm a big J.J. McCarthy fan, but I think the Vikings can survive and thrive to the tune of winning the division and keep the train on the tracks with Carson Wentz under center.
Speaking of trains on tracks, Green Bay had a stop in Cleveland today and wasn't able to get it done. Obviously, a field goal at the buzzer. And this was a team that we were all clamoring about being the class of the NFL this year. The Green Bay Packers, the most complete team. But then we see this happen. Then we see the way that the Minnesota Vikings show up. We saw the Detroit Lions hang a 50-burger last week. I'd say it's wide open still in the NFC North. But in terms of teams that don't really have weaknesses, the Minnesota Vikings are right there. And if the weakness is Carson Wentz and that experience and that high floor, the Minnesota Vikings should be okay.
How about your guy, Marcus Mariota?
Yeah.
Steps in for Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
Was able to, again, I use this expression when it comes to the backup quarterback.
Stunt doubles.
It's stunt doubles. Keep the train on the tracks.
So my dad did movies when I was younger. If you've been around my dad, he's about 6'5". He looks like, J.J. Watt. And for all these movies, he had a stunt double. And they were about 6'1", 220, but they looked the part from a distance. If you squint your eyes at some of these teams, you can see some of these quarterbacks are stunt double types, and some are just, he was the guy who was available. In terms of this guy behind me, Marcus Mariota, I can't think of a better guy to be behind Jaden Daniels. Truly the stunt double, the skill set, the ability to have mobility, split the field in half, get outside the tackles, get rid of the football. And also, one thing that goes unsaid about Marcus Mariota is the fact that he is so tough and he is such a great veteran and a leader that when he gets an opportunity to go in this football game, the team's going to rally around him. The offensive line will be on their P's and Q's. You and I have talked about how I used to respond when we got a backup in the game.
Oh, yeah?
I had to be on it.
Absolutely.
You could feel it from the Washington Commanders today, and it's impressive to say that the drop-off from Jaden Daniels to Marcus Mariota wasn't as drastic as you would imagine.
I've always wanted someone like Marcus Mariota as my backup quarterback, right? Tyrod Taylor is one of those guys for me too. I've always, going back to Buffalo, I always thought he was a solid quarterback in terms of being a starter. Okay, now he's going to be a backup. I want him as my backup quarterback. Smart, makes every throw, accurate, great leader, knows how to mentor, but also wants to be out on the field. That's a fine line in that quarterback room. I think he threads that brilliantly. Led the Jets back from a 17-point deficit. They lost on that field goal at the gun by Tampa Bay. Listen, if Justin Fields can't go, can Tyrod Taylor beat Miami next week? Of course he can.
You know, I was on TikTok the other day, and I was listening to some Japanese history, and they were talking about, there's a phrase, and I don't remember the phrase, but it's like, if you know your lot in life, if you know your role, you will be happy, you will be successful, and you will be all the good things. Tyrod Taylor, has found his role. It's a niche thing. And he has been a guy that every time he steps into the ballgame, there's not a shadow of a doubt from his coaching staff that he can handle the things that we're going to put in front of him. You lose count of how many years Tyrod Taylor's been in the league. It's like 20 now, it feels like. Great deep ball. The arm stuff is obviously important in the NFL. So you get a guy like that who's seen it, can make the throws, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, listen, I've always been a Tyrod Taylor fan. I want to circle back to Cincinnati for a second. Jake Browning's your backup quarterback. Mm-hmm. It was that bad. The line was bad. Minnesota's also on defense. You referenced Brian Flores. That good. If you're Zach Taylor, what are you saying? What are you doing? You're 2-1, but Joe Burrow, who's top 4 quarterback in the NFL, you could debate 1 through 4, but he's top 4.
Here's the problem: he ain't in the NFL right now.
So what do you do if you're Zach Taylor right now? Because you didn't just lose, Kyle. You got destroyed.
Well, it's like we got beat week 1 in 2018, and I remember telling myself, well, in 2019, I'm going to be so ready for week 1. Look, the Bengals have to play look ahead here because it's going to be 3 months before Joe Burrow's back on the field. You need to start figuring out what your MO is going to be coming into the draft season, coming into free agency, because the only way that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to have success is if Joe Burrow's on the field. And if you don't take care of him, he ain't going to be on the field. You got to surround him with some badasses up front.
For my guy, Kyle Long, I'm Adam Shine. Thanks for watching here on CBS Sports.